24. 31 rules to break if you feel like it. An indoor jungle is a personal thing. All the rules in the world may be no help at all in your special situation. The most important thing is to really want to grow the plants. I'm not saying they are emotional and will feel rejected if you don't treat them as part of the family, but it's only natural that they will be better cared for if you're interested in them. Some people find no sense of wonder in watching a carefully nurtured seed germinate and grow from a spindly stalk into a maturing plant, each leaf unfolding and developing in its own special way. All they want is something green in the corner, a decorative piece that goes well with the drapes and furniture arrangement. True, plants can do much to enhance a room, but if ornamentation is all that's wanted, I'd recommend, even though personally I can't abide them and find they say a lot about their owners, plastic plants. Once they're installed and bent to the most appropriate shape, you can forget about them. A living tree, on the other hand, is going to be somewhat more demanding. It will sooner or later borrow most of your kitchen equipment, abscond with the lazy Susan, insist one day on a full-fledged fog in your living room that curls up the edges of the prints hung on the walls, hog all the best light in the house, send you out on a winter's day for vitamins, and demand that your floor be lowered. The coconut you thought would look nice at the far right of the corner window will claim for itself the status of centerpiece on the dining room table, and please lower the chandelier while it recuperates from a case of chills it got by the window. The grapevine won't let you open the window it's curled around. Nevertheless, with some give and take, a very happy coexistence can be achieved with a jungle. For the most part, a plant will respond to any reasonable compromise offer in a particular clash of interests, human versus horticultural. And the reason rules aren't necessarily applicable is that sweeping statements of how things worked in one place one time, or even several times, don't guarantee that they will continue to work that way, or that there's no other way, particularly if any of the circumstances are different. However, I've found a few basic ground rules that make a workable plan for life in your own jungle. 1. Watering. 1. Use tepid water for watering all your plants. They don't like cold baths any more than most of the rest of us do. 2. Water plants at dusk or even at night. Although it probably rains on this earth as often during the day as during the night, evening is when the dew falls. Besides, direct sun shining on newly watered leaves will often burn them. 3. It's better to water well twice a week than a little every day. Remember, more people overwater than underwater their plants. 4. Water plants from the bottom at least once every 2 weeks. Variety is the spice of life even for the roots. 5. Place your plant pots on a dish of pebbles. This will keep the bottom of the pot from standing in water. The wet pebbles also have a large surface area, so evaporation of water will be rapid, keeping the area around the plants high in humidity. 6. Tropical plants like a softly moist atmosphere. For that matter, it's healthier for you to spray the leaves occasionally. However, if the leaves curl around their edges afterward, your apartment is so dry that the water is evaporating too quickly to be natural. In that case, spray around the plant instead of directly onto its leaves. Or move the plant to the bathroom. It's usually one of the most humid places in an apartment. The plants might not convert your bathtub to a tropical lagoon, then again they might. 7. Try double potting if your apartment is extremely dry and the bathroom is overgrown with jungle. Place a plant potted in a porous terracotta pot inside a larger non-porous pot. Fill the space between the two pots with peat moss or sphagnum. Water both the soil and the moss. This will keep the humidity high. Of course, a nice uncovered aquarium near your plants will do just about the same job and add a little animal life at the same time. 8. Water is not always water. If yours is heavily chlorinated, let it stand in an open container overnight before using. Don't use water that has been softened. The chemicals used in this process tend to collect in the pot, killing the plants. 2. Lighting. 9. Plants are outer creatures and love the sun, but strong, prolonged sunlight is rarely good for a plant in its first weeks of growth. After all, outside it would usually spend its childhood in the shade of more mature plants. 10. Plants can spend their entire life under artificial light, so don't let lamplit corners go bare of greenery. 11. When transferring a plant from genuine light to artificial light or vice versa, remember that the plant will be undergoing a slight case of shock and will probably lose a few of its older leaves. Don't fertilize for a week or two after moving. Let it recuperate. One change at a time is enough. 12. Under artificial light, particularly fluorescent, soil takes on a slightly different color. It will often look as moist as the soil in your pots by the window and yet be bone dry. 3. Soil and fertilization. 13. Dig up the surface soil in your pots with a fork every 2 or 3 weeks. Plants have to breathe, and soil that is constantly watered tends to pack. Just be careful of the roots, particularly when dealing with plants whose roots tend to be shallow. 14. Fertilize your plants carefully by the direction given with the particular plant food, whether liquid or in tablet form that you're using. Don't over-fertilize, but just as important, don't forget to fertilize. Plants have to eat too. 15. Try to avoid using the same plant food all the time. Fertilizer ingredients vary, and a different kind might have a trace of just what's needed for an occasional boost. Besides, how would you like to eat spaghetti every day of your life? 16. If you ever have cigar smoking company, bring one of the potted plants over for him to use as an ashtray. Tobacco itself is bad for the plant, so restrain him from putting the butt on out in the soil, but let him flick his ash into the pot as often as he likes. Cigar or cigarette ash is very high in potassium, which helps make the leaves green. 17. The pilgrims learned from the Indians to stick a fish in with the corn kernels they planted. As the fish decayed, it provided a rich fertilizer for the growing plant. I haven't donated any sardines yet, but another perfectly good after-dinner fertilizer is eggshells. Don't use the whole shell, just the inner membrane. Let the eggshells soak in water overnight, then fish them out and use the water on the plants. They'll lap it up. 18. Plants have to take a break too. All plants have a dormant period. This is usually shorter for tropical plants than for their temperate zone cousins. But short or long, the time will come when they just sit there. Let them sit. Water as usual, but don't fertilize. A little sleep never hurt anyone. After a month or so, when you see new buds on a waking plant, give it a good fertilizer breakfast. 19. Soil texture is almost as important as fertilization. Old soil tends to feel funny, not at all crumbly and good the way soil should. It's good, crumbly and good the way soil should. When a potted plant has remained in the same pot for 2 to 3 years, it needs some fresh soil. Turn the plant upside down if it isn't too big and heavy, and keep tapping it until the plant loosens and falls out. Needless to say, you have to hold one hand spread across the pot, plant between your fingers when you do this. If you can't tap it out, lay the thing on the outside, get the hammer and break the pot. You can always cover the hole in the new pot with the shattered pieces of this one. Scratch out the loose soil between the exterior roots with the pencil, but be delicate so as not to injure the roots. Removing as much as you can of the old soil leaves more room for the fresh stuff. 4. First aid. 20. If a plant's leaves begin to turn brown at the tips, chances are you are either over-watering or over-fertilizing the plant. 21. If the leaves curl and brown and you are not over-watering, chances are it's too warm or the air is too dry. 22. If the leaves turn pale or yellow, check the roots. If they wind around most of the space afforded by the pot, it's time to transplant to bigger quarters. If the roots are not pot-bound, try giving the plant more fertilizer, particularly iron. If, on the other hand, the roots look or smell rotten, you're over-watering. 23. If leaves drop off when they are not supposed to, the plant is probably suffering from too little humidity or fertilizer, or it's gotten into a cold draft. 24. Cotton on a plant you're sure isn't a cotton bush, particularly prevalent on avocados, is caused by the mealybug. Wash off the white with rubbing alcohol using a cotton swab. Keep it up until cotton is no longer king, but try to limit the alcohol rub to only infested areas. 25. If a plant just seems in general to be struggling for survival, give it a new home, even if you just transplant it with fresh soil to a pot the same size. Everyone likes his mattress turned occasionally. 5. Sun dry. 26. Keep several potted plants near to each other. For tropical plants, this is particularly good idea since in that fashion they form a mini jungle with an appropriately higher humidity. 27. Clean plant leaves occasionally using moist cheesecloth. City soot clogs up the leaves' breathing pores. So does oil. Don't use it to try to get the leaves glossier than nature. Better than damp dusting, give the plants an occasional good shower. Over protest, I use the bathtub, not its shower that's too hard pelting for most plants. I use a regular spray bulb found at any garden center, but the bathtub saves me worrying where the excess water is going. 28. Fuzzy leaves, like those of the Chinese gooseberry, shouldn't be cleaned with water at all. They retain the water and tend to develop brown spots. Use a soft brush, like a watercolor brush, to remove the dust and grime. 29. Avoid drafts. You might only get the stiff neck from them, but the plants will die. 30. For vacation plants, you can count on most healthy plants weathering a week without water easily. If you are going away for a longer period or have some plants that are very watery stemmed, consequently wilting more readily, cover them with a plastic bag from the dry cleaners. Prop 4 chopsticks or bamboo slats if the plant is tall in the pot, and tend the plastic over the whole affair, tucking it under the pot around the bottom. This will keep a plant thriving for as long as 3 weeks, but don't keep bagged plants where they will be reached by more than an hour of direct sun a day, or you'll have boiled greens when you come back. 31. Move your plants around once in a while. Everyone likes a change of scene. Also, moved to a different setting, an old familiar plant you've been absently staring past the last few months catches your eye and looks quite like a new and different creature. Last, but certainly not least, as they say, I've learned to experiment. Nature has made man look foolish so often, there's no honest reason I should try to avoid my quota of horticultural chagrin. Any new fruit or vegetable we find, I try to coax to sprout, and I am no longer shy about varying the conditions under which my plants grow if one set doesn't work to my satisfaction. Granted, I lose plants this way occasionally, but that's the breaks of the game. For some very stubborn cases of non-germination, I'm even contemplating modifying a new method I read about recently. The Wall Street Journal reported that Florida fruit growers are planning to waft music into their mango groves in hope of producing bigger, tastier fruit. Now that seems to offer a whole new approach to things. I think my first try will be for a Mozart mango.